Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Ryan? Present. Mr. Redmond?
Here.
Mr. Clancy? Ms. King? Present. Mayor Long?
Here.
Okay, as per Department of Public Relations, 75, chapter 231, notice of hearing of taking that this is a special meeting of the board. We are council and all parties have been met. Notice of international together for the first entity of the time. Notice of the posted on the bulletin board. The first item we have is the Hurricane Sandy assessment and recovery efforts discussion.
Copy, Mr. Hill, to start.
Okay, Mayor, what we want to touch on is a couple of items that we've been working on with the FEMA status and also with the public buildings. I'm going to start with the FEMA status project worksheets that we have going forward. Now, we don't have dollars attached to a lot of these numbers. These are the worksheets that are going to be in the hopper on our behalf. There's temporary facility, which we talked about. There's the Highlands Municipal Building, which we're seeking funds for. There's the Category A debris removal items that we've been working on. There's Category E. Those were some items with regards to the Highlands Firehouse that were damaged during the storm. Also under Category E worksheets will be the Highlands DPW areas that were impacted by the storm. Under Category B, we have the Highlands, that was basically the municipal facilities that we're looking at. Category E, another worksheet in is temporary repairs to property owned by the First Aid. Other projects that we have there outstanding that are going to be addressed to the best of our abilities. We understand and know the need for our sewer lines to be sand, to clean of sand and jetted, so we're working on that. They're lumping Category G, all flood damage to parks, into one worksheet. So they have a pretty comprehensive list. There again, we don't know what's going to be fully reimbursable, but that's a singular category, so we can try to get as much work that we're affected the parks. Category E, there's some community center items, and we'll talk further on that. Category B, there's also community center items with regards to the initial clean out. Category E are some of the mitigations that we may have to do to the existing lift stations at both South Bay and Waterwich. So if we need to bring the utilities up, things of that nature that'll get the electric up and out of harm's way, that's what we need to look at. One of the bigger items, of course, was the Category B emergency protective measures. So that's another project worksheet. That in itself, I think, was close to 900? Close to 900 to $1 million on that category alone. So that project worksheet, I believe, is ready to go in. We also did ask them to look at potential road subgrade damage. After the storm, of course, water comes up, water comes down. We may not know the impacts of some of the roadways for 6 months to a year from now, especially when we get into cleaning out the pipes and things like that. We do expect, unfortunately, that we may have some failures. So we have to be prepared for that and let FEMA know that up front. We're hoping not, but we have to prepare for the worst. We also have in the hopper, just so you know, the PPDR, which is the private property debris removal. That's in a worksheet. And also the demolition potential that we're working on. So that's pretty much on the FEMA side of things. What we're working on, those are project worksheets. The FEMA's been working with us on, I want to say almost a daily basis on getting all those categories in. There's been a lot of work that's gone into that. As far as the public buildings, if I may, we did meet with our insurance representatives yesterday at our request. After the flood elevation certificates were done for 3 properties that we identified initially, because we do know, of course, the first aid building, we're pretty sure that's already at a difficult level. We had flood elevation search done for the Borough Hall, for the DPW yard because it was impacted, and also the community center. I'll start with, and just keep in mind, these are total premium estimates for what's going to be required for us to carry flood insurance on these facilities.
In the same spot there.
If we do what we can to attempt to open these facilities, and that may mean mitigations, which we haven't even talked about yet, flood proofing, but as is right now, this is a guess and a pretty concise info that they're getting that we're going to be faced with.
From our insurance company.
From our insurance company. And they get it from the NFIB. Our insurance company isn't underwriting it. The MELGIF does not do flood.
Okay.
We'll start with the borough building, meaning the public works. The total premium would be about $1,924 a year.
What's the deductible?
Say it again.
1924. 1,924. That's the estimate for the public works area. It really goes building and contents, Mayor. We didn't really get into fully deductible, but it's 1,000 and 1,000.
Because I remember at one point they were talking about
Right.
$500,000.
Right. Going on to the second facility, same formula is used. The premium, hold on just a second, I've got to do EC. Yeah, the public works yard remained pretty much the same. 171 Bay Avenue for the same 1,000 building, 1,000 contents, and you can go down from that. If we want to cover the first 50 to 50, it would almost be in half. But the premium for 171 Bay, based on today's scenario, as we sit here today, is $20,745 per year. There again, these are estimates based on, their best case in working with the insurance company on our behalf. I told them we really wanted information for tonight. The community center. The deductible that's been presented to us, if we were to stay where we were, based on the building and the condition and the scenario, is $134,444 per year.
That is the fee?
The premium.
That's the premium.
134 for?
134,444, and that's of course with the $1,000 deductible. So if you want more,
How
now,
long are these rates guaranteed? Just for this one
no,
year?
they're not guaranteed, Mayor. I just want to
Change
make
the
it very, very clear. These are rates that have been, we asked for specific information. These are best case, worst case scenario for us as we sit here today. We do understand that those rates will probably be increasing in the future. However, and with Dale was at the meeting as well, what we talked to the insurance reps about is to really get a solid answer back to us on flood proofing, quote unquote. I know it's a term that we use, and any type of mitigations that we can do in the buildings to see where that gets us on our deductibles. So we have, we're asking them to provide us with additional information. But that's, as of yesterday, that was not wasn't a happy day for me, I can tell you that.
What do we pay now?
Pay nothing for that.
Not for anything.
Well, we don't have it. We're going to be required to have it.
What's it going to cost us to restore the community center?
We already got cost estimates if we were to restore what's there now in the 200,000, 225, and I don't think that cost estimate, quite frankly, when those estimates were coming in, included really relocating the utilities out of the flood zone. In other words, moving them up to the second floor. So there again, that's a cost estimate that we've seen. We certainly have, lots to discuss on that, but each one of those scenarios. Chuck Casagrande from Anskin Agency, and he also is in the JIP, would be willing to come to a future council meeting, perhaps an exec session, to talk to us.
So the situation we're faced with right now is we had no flood insurance.
Yes,
We had no flood insurance. We had no flood insurance. And our cost to restore is around 200.
I would say 250, I would say 250, but whatever.
Okay, 250, all right. So that if we go 2 years without a major storm, we recover, we recoup, and we have the same degree of damage, it's a net wash,
As opposed to getting insurance.
as opposed to getting insurance. And as
We
opposed-
may, just, I don't want to speak on behalf of the insurance, we may be
I was
required
going to say,
from the
public
jail
building.
because of the way this storm came in. There may be, and that's what we're going to talk to them when we bring them into exec session. We may be required to get the insurance. It will, and if FEMA does give us, and we're going to sort through that whole process, but I know if FEMA does fund us to any levels with relocations or whatever, they're going to require that policy being effective.
It might also require other things to eliminate damage.
Yeah.
Fund us for relocation, yes, but fund us to restore in place. And at this point, Bay Avenue, to restore it in place. It's going to cost us 24 grand worth of flood insurance to not have it explode again. And then what is the cost to repair that building?
That I haven't gotten. For the borough hall, I haven't gotten.
For the whole, 200?
Let's say two. I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Well, that's good.
I would guess, you know, if we're saying 225 down there, square footage of the building, maybe about that. I think the extent of the damage
Was less.
may have been less. Upgrading or moving the utilities will be a little bit of a challenge in that facility, but I'm sure it can be done.
Just relocated those.
We've got to have them higher now, Chris. The water came up.
Did it flood the utilities? Did they work?
Yeah.
Where you are now?
Yeah. In the firehouse. But I understand, I do understand the question, and we'll find a little more detailed information. Like I said, our insurance company's willing to come speak to us directly. Just so you know, I'll follow up with the workforce development program. The program has been extended to January 2014 if needed. We are in the process of putting in additional work order requests for individuals, and we haven't solidified that list. However, anyone who's on the workforce development program currently has a 6-month mandatory cutoff. So any employees that are with us can only work in the 6 month, or if they hit another bar of going over 1,040 hours, and then there's also an income. So anyone that's currently with us would not be able to be extended beyond their 6-month anniversary. But we see the need, and we've discussed this. We're going to put in for certain projects, and even if it's short term, if it's a 1-month project that we see out there that we want to fund 3 months down the road, we can put in for that now.
And that might change twice in that situation.
Right. So we're going to work on that. The Monmouth County Park System, I did mention potential grant opportunities. I was informed by the park system today. Last year's grant that we were awarded for the beach access at the community center property is still in force with us. So if we want to continue with the beach access, it is I quoted, you know, I said the product like a Moby Mat type product, so it's a movable product, but we could still do that with no
I think we
issues.
have to, because we're advertising everywhere for beaches, because we know there's going to be an impact on St. Hook.
And I
also,
wanted to do that
I think we have to start sifting them too.
But that's another
Done in the
part.
past.
That's
I think
another,
that's gotta happen.
we have that, that's already
It's
been,
going to happen before Memorial Day.
Right.
we put the requisition in. I've talked with the company that's provided service in the past. He's guaranteed me his equipment.
You're going to have to put a, I would think that since we're advertising everywhere for, come here, we probably have to put a port door.
Yeah, we've done that in the past.
Yeah,
too.
you
Yeah.
got to make sure.
No, the bridge we're going to,
That's got
the bridge section, actually we're talking about that a couple times. What do we want to do there in terms of replacement of that access? There are access points.
And
We-
the bridge there still is. Now, there's no barricades or anything to stop you, but of course, the float is on.
Under what, I'm confused.
I'm looking at
The footbridge over to the rec center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're talking
Oh,
about-
the bridge over.
The one that
Oh,
goes over
the
the creek.
access.
Okay, sorry.
From Snow Bar.
That's got to be taken down.
And the back where the dumpster was, still has to be,
Right, that was from the beach cleanup.
Is there a way for you to speak up so we can hear you? You're kind of all mumbling.
Okay, but we'll have the beaches. I just wanted to mention the grant, and I do understand that we're on target to move as long as we can get lifeguards in place.
We've got to at least sift it and make sure there's a portage on
Yeah.
it. Because we are advertising that, business bid and everything that
Yeah.
safety groups are intact and everything.
Now, are you anticipating any problems getting a lifeguards in place?
We've had a lifeguard shortage the last 3 years. So, you know, I can only say, I hope not.
Are we advertising already?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Lifeguarding is a very, very, it's a serious job, and we do the best we can and try to get as many folks. The worst case scenario, and it has happened when we do have a complement of guards on, if we do have a shortage on any given day, we are forced to not guard a facility, but we don't close the facility. Because the public still can go to the beach if the lifeguard's not there. So we're not required to do anything else other than have the sign, no lifeguard on duty. So that's the way it's worked in the past. Following up with this year's Monmouth County Park System grant that we probably will be eligible again for, I spoke to Faith Mon this morning. She said that one of the criteria and priorities that is going to be made from the freeholders on down for this particular upcoming year is Sandy storm related, non-FEMA, non-insurance covered will get you a priority on some rebuilds. And
What's the bridge over the creek?
we can't wait for that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, and it's not retroactive.
Okay.
No, but no, you're right. Yeah, things like that would have certainly been eligible, but that grant just came out the other day, and they generally don't award it until October, November. So we may have some projects in there that we need to consider. The Robin Hood Foundation, I'm not going to touch on. I think I'm going to defer to.
We'll get to that.
Are you okay with that? Okay. Just another item that we've been working on, the distribution center for February, March served over 500 residents at the distribution center, not the solution center, at the distribution center. And that's pretty much what I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Could you send us that information on the insurance?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a gentleman from FEMA here, Peter Gaza. He's Community Recovery Assistance Group Supervisor, Federal Recovery Coordinator. And mind speaking for a minute?
You want me up there?
Yeah.
Very briefly,
The back, I think you got to hit this button on the back. Yeah, one up.
It's got to be plugged in, Frank. Doesn't have a.
All right, you got to speak up there. You want to just come over here then, Peter? I'm sorry.
let me get closer.
Yeah, just come in the middle so you can everybody.
Okay, basically, we are a division of FEMA made up of professionals in architecture, engineering, community planning, economic development, and city management. Most of us are retired or consulting, and most of us have been with FEMA for maybe 2 or 3 years. My first disaster was the tornadoes in Alabama. What we do is we come in towards the end of a disaster when everybody has gotten their breath and understood what the assessments are, the damage assessments, and we offer our services to help you organize, put together a recovery strategy, identify financing. We sit with all of our federal partners, EDA, USDA, you name it. They're housed with us at the Joint Field Office in Lindner. You have been, I guess you were contacted by the Intergovernmental Affairs of the state, asked if you were interested in our services, and we are here to help.
Okay. We'll be working with our administrator and our CFO, actually.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And what type of specifics, what type of things they
Well, like I said, all of the different disciplines are at your service. So we will sit down with Tim and with Stephen and whomever else and identify what the needs are, and then we'll assemble a team for you to satisfy those needs. So it could be anything from technical assistance with engineering or transportation, or it could be a full-blown community recovery strategy involving everything in it. That's about it. So,
Yes. Can you provide technical assistance to deal with the flood-proofing concerns that the businesses face? From an architecture and construction point of view, at this point, Bay Avenue in elevation 3 needs to be flood-proof to elevation 14 at this point, unless it gets reversed.
we can look at all of those issues and help you all make sense of it. We're in, right now, 9 different communities. Okay, when you received your letter from IGA, so did everybody else. So we've just lined up 8 other communities that we're working with. One other thing too, and so I'm not ignoring the question, I'm just telling you when we get in and get involved, we can certainly help you through that process.
Have you done that in the past year?
Yeah. We've done that in towns that were totally blown away in Alabama from those tornadoes. And I've worked, Alabama was my first deployment. Then I came back to New York to work on Irene in the southern tier of New York, went back down to Alabama, and then back here. I've been home for 2 months and 2 years. Also, I want to make mention, we have hired almost 20 local architects, engineers, and community planners that serve with us in Lincroft. So we will be bringing some of them up here, all New Jersey people, to help as well.
Are we paying a fee for these services, or is this included, this is our taxes at work?
This is your taxes at work, you've already paid for this.
Mayor, I would just like to say, I'm interested in community planning.
I agree. I think that's part of the overall plan.
Do you have a financial service for the people when they look into their flood insurance, what they get back? A lot of houses downtown have been really destroyed. I mean, and you're not going to get all the money from FEMA.
Sure.
But then they want you to get involved with the SBA loan, small business loan, for homeowners, and you go in and you get that at 1.68%. Then I just went online today to find out about the money that the state of New Jersey is going to have for grant money. Okay, and from what I understand, and it says that I would have to take the money that I got from FEMA, and then take the money from the small business loan, and if that totals more than, or whatever, over $150,000, I can't get any grants. Is that correct?
I don't have those answers for all the other
That's the way it
divisions,
reads,
but
yeah.
I can get those answers.
Wait, Mr. Gunther.
It reads that way, yeah. It's the community development grant that Mr. Edmonds referred to it's rolling out very stringent on who's going to be eligible and who isn't. I mean, there's many financial criteria as well as property ownership, home ownership, residency, so on and so forth.
I will say this, though, there is one community that we just started working with here in New Jersey who has gone through those same issues, but was able to get money through the Christie Foundation that was established, Robin Hood Foundation. So there are ways to solve the problems. We help you identify the problems and find the solutions.
You would have at least point people in the right direction.
Absolutely do. Yep.
Okay, so what will be our contact with you? Will you be coming to town at certain times, or will we set meetings with the administrator, Mr. Hill will set that up? It isn't like you're going to be sitting at a desk where people will just walk in and ask questions.
Actually, it is.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
We will assign 1 or 2 people here, and then we have floaters because we have such a large area to cover, running up and down the coast. So yes, we would ask you if you have some space to
No, we lost all our
donate.
meetings.
Figure out something. Carla from the business partners.
Solutions.
I just wanted to ask, do
Speak
you
up,
have, Carla from the Highlands Business Partnership, do you have a technical assistance team from the private sector, as you had in other communities, that can work strictly with the non-residential flood proofing?
We don't have a
It's gonna be
team
certified
that
by
does the
architects.
floodproof, but we know where to get the answers and get the help.
So we're really lacking in that. We need to get that information, streamline that information, because so many of our buildings in the district are affected.
Yeah, and we're dealing with that in a number of different places too. We can help you with all of those issues. It seems, I can't imagine being you guys and going through this and trying to find your way out of something as bad as this was. But that's all we do. And that's all we've done in our careers, is rebuild. I've been in economic development for 27 years in 5 different states and 6 different cities. I manage the programs. We have a gentleman who is a local hire, who's the president of downtown New Jersey, Michael Red. You can certainly come up here. And we have all kinds of architects and engineers. So once we get here, we can sit down and have these discussions and see if we're
What's
good
the
at
next
finging
step?
problems and
What's
solutions.
the next step for us?
You tell us when you want us to start, we'll have people up there.
No, not tomorrow, I got a busy day.
You tell us when and we'll be here.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll hear from us within 48 hours.
Mayor, just so you know, we did meet last week initially just to review the program, and they were available to come up tonight, so we welcome them here, because I think it's great information. I think it's going to be a big help.
So I got like a punch list of what I think that a lot of the people have been asking about, and I have things they want to address. Where do we stand with communication townwide? I know we had issues with the phones. I saw phones in
Phones are getting there. May 15th, the tech teams are all coming and converging together to get them all up and running.
The challenge I have since about last Wednesday, my emails are there. And I didn't know it until I looked on the phone, it said X amount, and I couldn't open it on the phone, and that's why I went there Monday night after work. I think I left there at 11 o'clock, and I was couldn't open it. That's something we have to look at, especially
All right, just let me know when that happens, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's a
Well, we have to figure it out.
sometimes there's a default in the system where we have to just do a quick reset.
And
So
it has error codes on the phone.
I
It
know.
calls.
yeah, no, it only makes outgoing right now, because we can't disconnect the whole system without disrupting communications. So right now, the phones that are plugged in, you can pick up and dial out. But you have to do
Yeah,
you have to do 911.
Your town phone.
I'm talking about the town phone,
Right.
but now the bright light was when I went there to fix that, there was a phone, I saw phones on the Bluetooth.
911.
And I tried them and they worked.
Okay, which is great, but
Right.
your handheld phone.
The phone will
is
work
not-
if you call me, but there's no email.
Okay, all right.
There's no email at the server, so I don't know if anyone else realizes
No.
theirs isn't working.
I thought it
I haven't had a
was-
Okay, so yours
problem.
isn't working on it.
I'm getting emails on my Councilman New Jersey.
I get-
So that's where you gotta double check.
Right. When I go
I
there,
know,
it's wait.
Correct. You're not. That is Kenny's money.
Okay.
What's that?
No,
What's
I'm
that?
not gonna.
Okay.
Name anybody, I just wanna, I mean, Tara's having a problem too.
I'm getting
So, I'm sorry.
On the phone, I get it when I'm on my computer when I go, and it was up to date, this afternoon.
The point of the whole conversation is, especially now, I'm gonna segue to Carla next, because we brought on some more people, we're putting them all in that building, which is fantastic, that's why we rented it, right? And potentially, someone from the pizza office, or Pete himself, they're gonna be able to do something. Nothing, it's not earth shattering, we just gotta fix it. Carla, you wanna talk about the grants, and I know the bid that's hired 2 people, you wanna elaborate on that to everybody?
Yes.
Talk about the grants, I know there's dozens that we applied for, the ones you know off the top of your head.
Well, we did apply for the Mary Pat Christie's disaster relief, but
Can't believe I'm asking you this.
I'm not sure. But it looks like the first round of funding has been published, and I do not see our name on there. I have not heard any information. We have allocated a part-time consultant through our economic development budget. It's a small budget for a 6-month contract to Rick Horn. So he's working on some of the grant applications with myself. We are applying for the New Jersey tourism money that's become available. That's due in June. We did submit our letter of intent, and we're also working on the American Red Cross grant. So those are 3 in particular. We do have a slew of other grants that we're looking at, and we've met with Gateway Church to partner in a grant and to partner in some housing rehab, which I'll get into in a minute, for the Robin Hood Foundation. We received $200,000, and they would like for us to service a minimum of at least 40 residents, so it's $5,000 grants.
And the 50 was for the administrator, correct?
Right,
So it
right,
was 250 total.
right.
I just don't want that to be one.
Yeah, well, that's
Put
why
that out there
I'm
right now.
separating it, right. So we hired the title is Community Program Specialist with the Robin Hood funding, who strictly has to focus on the Robin Hood grant because that's how her salary is being funded. Her name is Sarah Thoma. She is not my relative. And I did hear that.
And Sarah.
Yeah, I did hear that. But anyway, she is very experienced in the field. She had a tremendous portfolio, 20 years of experience in the field, and she's part of the long-term recovery, Monmouth County Long-Term Recovery Union. Her hours are Monday and Tuesdays from 9 to 3 in the mayor's desk upstairs,
I didn't tell him yet.
19 Bay
It's just an
Avenue.
office, you know what I mean?
Thursdays 2 to 8.
He's gonna be there too, I got this. Just gotta rotate
Thursdays,
everybody in and out.
Thursdays, it's not my relative. Thursdays 2 to 8, so the construction office is open late on Thursdays. She's going to try to service 2 to 3 appointments by appointment only on Saturday, maybe up to 3 residents, so that it equals up to 25 hours per week.
How long is the contract for?
Well, it's really, we're predicting through Labor Day, but really it depends on how quickly we're going to be able to service. They have $5,000 grants. The HVP approved the New Jersey housing rehab guidelines, so we put together a program that we're using. We also hired, included in part of that Robin Hood $50,000, we have a construction manager who's strictly going to be doing work write-ups. So as Sarah approves, there's like an application process. It's moderate income, low to
Someone needs
moderate
something done to their house.
income guidelines, heating, plumbing, electrical, kitchen, bathroom necessities to make your house code compliant. We're going to be looking to do those items. First come, first served. You get your paperwork in. Once she approves, certified, all information is kept strictly confidential. We'll be dealing just with the case of the program coordinator. And once it's approved, then she'll, make an appointment with the homeowner, do a site visit, and get the construction manager, cost estimator, is his title, to go over there and do the work write-up. The work write-up becomes part of the file, and then there's a bid process for the contractors. They have to be licensed, registered with the state. They have to be, have their insurance. The bids will be sealed, same kind of process as housing rehab, and then the work will get done. Once that work is done, we're going to try to partner, but no commitments, with someone like a Gateway Church for sheetrocking, taping, spackling, so we can try to continue to make the home whole. But we're just not guaranteeing that. We're trying to partner and use the additional grant funds if we obtain them for those kinds of programs. But the Robin Hood will strictly be used for code compliant issues to get people to return home. It's a really well thought out process, and hopefully it will work very smoothly and we'll be able to get people. She was at PTAP yesterday and Monday and Tuesday. I believe she spoke to quite a few people. We'll have the brochure, the package, all of her information tomorrow. She'll have all of that ready to go. So for anybody that she made contact with, she'll be able to, I think she made contact with like 134 people that are interested, and she'll be able to start reaching out to them. Her email address is Sarah, SARAH, HVP, @highlandsnj.com. She'll be accessing her email via the internet.
Okay.
People are going to be leaving messages at 732-291-4713 at the HVP's phone number. She'll get her messages. She'll also be able to access those messages. And then obviously use your phone to return phone calls.
You can dial in remotely, obviously, so she'll.
Right, she can call, it's a voicemail and get the messages. And all of the applications and paperwork are going to be mailed to our office in sealed envelopes. We're requesting that they put Robin Hood, attention Robin Hood on the outside so that none of that mail is, mixed in with any regular mail and will not be opened. She'll be opening that mail.
And part of the agreement, thinking is that I have this professional person in place, correct?
Right, well,
And a lot of the folks that I talked to, connected with Rob Hood and other families, that was, when they had that person, they were done more favor, they could possibly move from
right.
them.
And she'll also have, she has a lot of resources. Part of the reason she was chosen, we had a very lengthy interview process. We had 29 applicants. We advertised in the nonprofit Times. And we had 12 interviews and second interviews. And one of the reasons was, that she was selected was because of her, the resources that she could bring to the table. So she's going to have she's preparing a list of resources to give to residents that, if they don't qualify or if they don't, are not interested in the program or for whatever reason, she'll be able to hand that off to them. And, then it's really up to them if, they want further assistance. But we really need her to focus primarily right now because we're under a timeline, speaking with Robin Hood Weekly, myself and Mr. Hill. We really need to stay focused and get this launched and get the money spent, and they would like for us to at least service 40 residents. If there's a situation where somebody needs a little bit more money, maybe, it's a case by case, if it's $7,000 or $8,000, Sarah will be able to email them and get approval, and they will approve the extra funds.
Who else would
They may, that's Robin Hood.
Robin
Okay,
Hood.
that's it.
Robin Hood may say, okay, you can issue them
So
an
that's for all those
additional
persons.
$3,000, right, if it's something where to make that, the project,
When people make the application, is there a deadline, or is it
No.
like stamped date or first
yeah,
come, first
everything's
served?
gonna be stamped and logged in,
Until
Since all that
in a
stuff starts-
spreadsheet. And let's say 5 people come at the same time, and you have your pay stubs, and you have your tax returns, and everybody, to get qualified, has their information in, and they'll just be in order in which they received. Let's say the first 3 people didn't send in all the required documentation, but the next 4 people did, they'll move up. We're not gonna wait for everybody to send. She's gonna do everything she can to help people get what they need. The information is spelled out. The income guidelines are printed on the brochure that's gonna be published tomorrow. It's gonna be online.
Low income?
I'm sorry?
Low income?
It's moderate, it's pretty flexible, actually. I was really surprised. Do you happen to have the numbers? I didn't bring it, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. It's based on the HUD home repair program. That's a federal program. The household size of 1 is up to $46,300. Household size of 2 is up to $52,900. Family size of 3 is $59,500, and then it goes up incrementally. And just to follow up, Robin Hood did agree with these guidelines. They do weigh in on what methodology you're using, and they were very understanding Monmouth County and some of the
Highland's
situations.
typical family of 4, what is it?
Typical family of 4 up to $66,100.
You think of the median,
That's-
less than that,
That's the HUD. They have a low and mod, and they allowed us to go to the mod. They were leaning towards us going to the low, but they accepted us going to the mod.
Which we thought would be more beneficial
This
for
on the county website,
homeowners.
less than that was 55.
So-
Family of 4, so-
Yeah, so it's a little, we did, it's probably the best way to go. It's the
Unless this
program.
changed since today.
No.
Okay.
Oh, you
I
have
know
it?
I know, Carl, I never want to speak to something else, but I think you can give me a report on.
Yes, Oprah Island?
Yes.
Yes, I was just
I
gonna
know
do,
Rachel's just doing.
thank you.
And actually, I'm just sorry, but is there any way, like, on the 15th, staff to come to meet people and put paperwork out on our?
Yes.
So these people that are here can.
Absolutely.
We'll get introduced to the
Yeah,
public.
we were gonna do that, we were gonna
Okay.
do that. Yeah, we just wanted to have like the package ready in hand.
You want to bring it to the 20th, the town
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. As far as the Hopeful Highlands Committee, and yes, Rachel Stockton's a member, and matter of fact, got a lot of applications done today. But so far, we have raised, without counting the $250,000
From Robin Hood.
we have raised $177,000, of which we distributed 148,000. Do you happen to have that
No,
report?
I don't have everything.
Okay, I sent it. So we have serviced 148 residents and businesses till this day. We have 15 more that just got approved, so they'll be going out another
So
15,000.
that's on top of the 148.
On top of the 148, we'll be servicing, it was 148 residents and businesses up to $1,000.
So there's about 163.
So we're gonna send out another 15 that they just approved.
And I know you have to put in some other people.
And then we still have about, how many after on the waiting list? About 11, 12 more that we haven't approved.
So then you're almost have enough. for the
There's out about a
177.
dozen, but they still, they still stagger in,
I'm
and
not
what
knocking
the,
you. I'm saying that then for many people to apply,
yeah,
potentially you have the money.
potentially we'll be able
If they're all
to
approved.
cover that. We just can't, use the Robin Hood money.
I'm not
You are
looking
not
to do anything
allowed,
like that.
for the Robin Hood money, we're not allowed to make any checks to a resident, and you can absolutely not use any of it towards a business at all.
Stick with the whole
You know.
thing. You're on a roll.
So that's how that works. Any other questions?
Everyone that has applied at this point already told people that received something?
Not, well, we have 15 to cut checks for that just got approved. And then we have like another 12 that we don't
So
have the money
potentially
for
there's
right
20.
now. But as it comes in, they keep going out.
Right.
So
Sometimes.
27 have applied and some have been approved and some not.
Right.
But the rest got their money.
Now, a few people, probably a dozen, I can bring that information the next time, I don't have it with me today, but there were probably a dozen or less people that were totally denied for certain reasons. So their application was sent back to them with a letter explaining,
Why they were denied.
and then, like, we just couldn't process it. There wasn't a proof of payment at all, or there was like, just different reasons that
Multiple houses.
multiple houses, with the
Property.
legitimate documentation.
The correct credentials.
Right,
Because a lot of people didn't start work yet, so how can they apply?
right. And they could send it, like, as we raise money, because we get online donations, and every now and then you get a surprise. You may get, like, the Care One, $15,000 that, we found out about, just like, we were able to give out another 15. That's how we're doing the next 15.
But they're only gonna get it one time.
Right,
No matter what.
no matter what,
There
yeah.
are also some people who sent in information who needed to provide, they forgot a part of their application. We're calling them,
Right.
we're sending them
Whatever
notices, and in addition, we're following up with phone calls and messages.
Sure.
We'll be happy to meet you at our next meeting, we can bring this information.
So
So we
at
can
this
finish
point,
processing.
everyone has been either notified by letter or by phone call from all that you have received. It's not as if.
No, some they just cut the checks and didn't send them out.
And I didn't receive a payment, or I have not received a letter of denial at this point, then they should be contacting you and saying something's wrong.
Right, I didn't get the notice, what's going
So
on.
at this point, you've contacted every single piece of every person you've received, either by letter of denial, or you've called and said, whatever, you're missing this, that, whatever.
Right, the people who are deficient have been notified.
What about the other 12 that are on the waiting list? Did you guys contact
But
them?
no, there are some applications that just recently came in. There's still some applications that are coming in that we just received. Last
When you
night,
say
actually,
received, you mean last
This
week?
week, yeah.
Okay, then I'm saying that within the last, say, 30 days.
no, we have gone through, in the last, I would say, applications that were sent in a month ago. We definitely looked at, sent letters of, denial or reason, deficiency, needing more
So
information.
someone's saying,
Or have
I
received.
sent my stuff and I haven't received anything from anyone. At this
They should
point.
contact us, and so we can check on their
Yeah.
application.
And it does, with everybody having forwarding, we did come come across a lot of issues. One guy, it took him like, we mailed the check, and it took him like 3 weeks to get the check in the mail, almost to the point where we were gonna stop that check.
Cut another one.
Cut another one, and then he called and got it, 3 weeks later, and we mailed it right in Highland, so.
Before Carl was looking
I'm set, thank you.
at Carl, and someone.
I just wanted to say that, as we receive the applications, they're logged in a spreadsheet. They're stamped, the date and time, and then they're recorded in the Excel spreadsheet as to what date they were received, and they just get assigned another number, 178, 179, 180, and we just keep going. And then that spreadsheet is like how we keep track of, and then once the check is issued, we mark it approved, and the check number is logged on the spreadsheet. Or if they were denied, then there's a column that says denied, and we send them back their entire package, which was really, I think, less than about a dozen people, right?
One last question, what if I was approved and I only received, let's say, I put in for 1,000, but I only received 500, for whatever reason you guys keep doing?
Yes,
Can you resubmit again for the additional
Sure,
500
sure.
at a later time?
yes, for an
Maybe they only have proof of
A
spending
good, no,
$500.
you know what a good example of that is? Somebody put in for $1,000, but 400 was for a wine cooler. Well, we didn't feel, let me
Not saying
tell
they're all.
you, we had a lot,
Not a bad guy.
we felt someone who needed a washing machine was a lot more important than someone needed a wine cooler. So the committee made those
That all
decisions, an independent committee, and we sent them the $500 and said, sorry, your wine cooler is not covered. So that is a perfect example of, but if they have
long as it's not a wine cooler.
another receipt,
And spend money.
that's maybe they bought the dryer.
Mr. Major, you have a question.
For the washer with ice.
Mr. Robin,
Yes.
anybody who started a project now is wasting their time because they got contractors and contracts with the insurance companies and the people that rebuild their houses. How you gonna fly when a guy wants to come in and tell you this is what's gotta be done? It's already gonna be done. A qualified builder.
You can
Well, I'm
apply,
hoping you're using qualified building already, I'm doing now. Sign me, you person.
like, let's say you're doing the inside of your house, maybe you need a roof or gutters or something like that, exterior.
When you're doing it now, you're doing a complete job. You've got a contract.
Not
Your
every-
insurance company don't let you get out. You're gonna do a complete
Can
job.
you use to buy
So,
just a piece
if
of
other
equipment?
people now want to start, they're better off to wait and see if they can get some money out of there.
Yeah, in other words, for like my question was,
Depends on, yeah, I think
Somebody
maybe on
heater.
the month or low.
if I can for money for a heater, for example, and you say, okay, well, yeah, we'll buy this heater. Well, if I already have this one spec'd out, can I use that money towards that one even though I'm, you know what I mean? Does it only have to do to buy the whole thing?
I don't see why, like, I know that, but the problem is, we're not allowed to make the check to the person, so if you bought it, we can't give you a check.
You're talking Robin Hood or Hope for Hannah?
Robin, I think he's asking about
Okay,
Robin.
no, I just-
No, I'm talking about Hope Behind.
Oh,
Gotta be clear, that's how.
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again?
In other words,
Because his question was, hold
does it have to
on,
be for
Robin.
work, or can it be for equipment, like a heater or, air
Labor's
conditioner?
not included, so it's a switch.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a yes, so if you
Send
want
you
a
here,
heater,
yeah,
So you bought a boiler, right?
But
absolutely.
So I'm saying, do I have to buy the boiler that you're gonna give me, or can I upgrade it and just put it towards anything?
No, no, they're refunding money you spent.
Okay.
That's part of
The
Hope for Hannah.
material
Hope
grant
for Highlands
program
is a
it's
reimbursement.
reimbursed.
is up to you. We're
Okay.
cutting you the check, it's very,
You show the need, you show the really pay for it, and they make.
as long as no wine cooler, no wine cooler.
I don't have to drink wine.
And the
That's
reason
at the
we,
office.
and the reason we did no labor is because we found too many people, and we actually had a lot of that happen, even though we said no labor. People sending in receipts from laborers, and then we went back and asked, okay,
What's the comparable?
can you send, you
No,
know,
we asked the,
you paid, and it was
we
just
asked the
like,
contractor directly to give us some backup and they
and
couldn't
there was no
provide.
backup, there was no proof of payment, the alleged laborer's name was spelled wrong on this letterhead, and things like, you'd be surprised.
So
So we-
typically, someone buys a heater and.
Yes, that you should submit, and you get. Yeah, you have to send, you have to send in your receipt. But you know what, there are some residents who sent us the application and said, I didn't spend any money yet, but I want to be on the list. And they are, and actually this one person who did that in the very beginning, we just got her receipts, and she's been processed, so even though
Like
she
the
was,
way your
even
insurance
though
money
she was
comes
like
in.
number 12, she just wanted to be recognized that she was gonna send
Going to
something
be on
in.
the list.
And we did, yeah, she wanted to be on the list, so we did do that as well.
So by the end of the week, I'll send out 163 checks.
Yeah.
163.
Yeah, Saturday we'll cut the
Residents
ones,
or whatever.
the 15 they just approved. And now we're back to a waiting list.
Yeah, residents and business.
Right, and now we're back to a waiting list, but we don't like, people like to give out information, say, oh, there's no more money, because that's not true, because we may get a $10,000 check
Well,
tomorrow,
everybody doesn't know what's coming.
right, and then none of us know, and then I'm gonna say, all right, guys, give us the next 10, you know,
Everybody should submit for their first $1,000 expended items.
that's right.
When the money's there, they'll.
Refrigerator, washer.
Right.
Everyone will get at least.
Somebody buys a washer and buy, I mean,
Yeah.
it's never happened, but it's less than 1,000.
They do, no, a
But
lot of
one
people
thing-
do, people do.
The reality is there's no end to the project, you know?
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't care what, it's like,
Found out.
they said, oh, we're gonna give you bid comments, we're gonna do comments.
Right.
It's just, oh, okay, we're gonna do comments too. You know, you never know.
And I know some residents probably felt like we put them through a lot of work for the, like, some people we had to send a deficiency notice 2 and 3 times, but we really worked hard with everyone to just make it right. You know, bring your receipt, just show us your credit, you don't even have to give us a copy, just show it to us. Come to bars and show it to us and we'll process it.
And who's going to do the audit, Bob? Fallon Associates?
No, we have a certified audit. Ours has to be certified according to the New Jersey State Statute for
This is
Business
Hope for Highland.
Improvement District, yes, because it's under the Highlands Business
And this is a
Partnership.
separate one or part of the bid?
And a separate, well, a separate audit, because it's a one
Separate
auditor,
entities, right?
but it's a separate bank account, and it's the Kirchen Group. And they've already audited for 2012, because if you remember, which you'll be getting soon, we're just wrapping up the journal entries and stuff, and we'll submit that to DCA.
They've done the bid audit for a few years?
No, we had some, if you recall, the concert, the first concert, the second concert that started the Hope for Highlands account was in 2012. So some of the money has been audited. They were
Who
very,
did that
very,
audit? Same
the
group?
Kirchen Group, yeah. And they were very, very pleased with the way we put together the programs, you know, and following the guidelines we're following. And we also received a letter from the Attorney General's office, because they were doing random checks of anybody to do with collecting hurricane relief
All the
money.
charity.
And we were good to go, you know, we were all,
That's what we want.
we checked
It's
out.
only good, it's not good.
So,
Anything else you want to add in the bid? Hope for Highlands?
probably too much stuff.
Now's the time. It's like
Um,
the 6-month recap.
Yeah. Well, I think we're doing a pretty good job with getting businesses open. You know, a
Let's
few
speak to
more.
that. Who's coming open and when?
In the cafe will be open hopefully from other, you know, this week, soft opening. Chilango's is gonna be, in, I think, May
2 weeks?
25th, right, May
So for
25th.
Memorial Day, right?
Grimaldi's as well, pushing for Memorial Day weekend. I think there was a new mercantile approval or pending approval of the Girls Cafe in the back of where Primo's Pizza was, which are some of the ladies from Laura's Pancakes, which is really nice to have a new addition. I spoke to Ara from the Plata today, and he's pushing also for Memorial Day weekend. Just got insurance money. Some of us just got our insurance money, thank God, this week. So it's a slow process. We're trying to help some of those less fortunate, which brings me to this discussion of the floodplain. So,
Sure.
if I may address this now, or do you want me to
No,
wait?
no, go
till-
ahead. You're got the number 4 right now.
Okay,
Now we're going to segue into engineering. Have
okay.
anything else before that? Let's go right into engineering. Here.
The Bay Avenue cleanup program is going to start in time for Frank Green, you know, the Bay Avenue cleanup
What we did last
will
year.
start for Memorial Day weekend, and that will run through, you know, October through Oktoberfest. We're going to be selling tickets to our Taste of Highlands online. We're going to be, you know, those are going to go on sale in the
When's
near
that gonna be
future.
done?
We're obviously going to have 4 less restaurants, which is a little bit sad, but.
When is it going to be?
It is June 26th, I believe. I should have brought that calendars, I'm
Is it a
sorry.
Friday or Saturday?
22nd, then, Saturday. Yeah. And I know the calendars, I believe, are available at our wall in the Solution Center, and I'll make sure I bring some from now on. So they're gonna go on sale. And, you know, we're probably gonna allocate a portion of the proceeds for those either to the boardwalk or to Veterans Park improvements, you know, whether it be the playground or to the boardwalk. But anyway, I'm just really concerned about the, you know, I'm all about streamlining and getting the information, and I know I probably drive some of you crazy, about the flood, having current flood information. I think right
It's
now,
erroneous.
we have the
Correct?
post-Sandy guide in one place, we kind of have to click too many places to find things.
Talking on the website?
Yeah,
On the FEMA website.
on the post-Sandy guide with the construction boards in the background. I looked through, like, we don't have the current flood ordinance posted anywhere. This non-residential flood-proofing document that I think is critical to the businesses, and I brought one copy, but I can email it. I think that should be online. I think we have this old FEMA brochure, which I know I've been bugging Chris about. I wish this can be updated. It's old. It's just a matter of someone sitting and going through each of the FEMA, well,
A lot of the stuff was 2001 for.
yeah,
And
but the
right.
current information's there, and I don't know if that's a project that maybe your team can help us with.
Sure.
But
All these oversight.
all of these brochures can easily be new numbers placed, or we could just, why reinvent the wheel? It's a great brochure. Residents, business, we'd have something to give to people,
I know what the act.
one click. It's like too many places to find things, and, you know.
So one,
Criticism about the website in general.
Well, who did the
Well,
website?
yeah, but it is, because it's not, there's no direction. I mean, I'm not blaming, I mean, I yell at Ken about it, but it's not his fault, because
but at the
he's
same
gotta
point,
get the
he's not putting
direction.
documents on that we don't tell him.
He's, right, he won't, you know, he's gotta get the direction from you guys. And as a business owner or someone trying to promote business here, too many clicks, too many places, we
So we
gotta
have to update it and put it
streamline.
on the front of the.
Yeah. It's the old flood mitigation plan, and I just think this would be a great,
Say what, mitigation will be part of our team while we're up here too. So I can take this to them and see if they have new information.
Do you want to take this too?
yeah, well,
No.
this is right off of their
You don't want
website, no.
That's easy.
That's,
It's easy.
no, it's right off of your website, the FEMA's website.
That is?
Yeah, that's
Is this
right.
updated?
Yeah, it's, I just
The
printed it
latest?
off of your website.
Just take a look at.
I email that to our businesses because it's for non-residential flood proofing, and we're actually
So in the
looking.
interim, one, put that on the front page.
Exactly, but we need, you know, I just think it all should be in one place. And like, you know, a lot of residents, even residents, a lot of people are really concerned. I've had a couple of residents, and not trying to be negative, but people, someone that's here, that really don't know what to do with their home, because they don't know. And I know we probably a lot.
Onto the website, I've just talked to Tim today, I have a street light out in my street, and I don't even know where to the website, I'm calling the police, I'm calling everybody to say, how do we fix the street light? It was a silly thing, but it should be somewhere where people know what to
Don't
do.
want that in.
You push
I already
buttons and
prepared.
it doesn't work.
Right now, the website is down for several weeks.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
No, you public notice.
No, we had a
We've,
Oh,
we've passed
Oh, the
along
content?
information that's
Oh,
not
I'm not
getting
familiar with that.
I go there first place to see if I can find stuff. and it's very
Yeah,
difficult.
but the FEMA stuff, you have a button on the homepage, and it's gotta get, we've gotta just make
Find out what's going on
it.
with the
I'd like to see
website.
this stuff on the homepage.
Find
You took it
out
off.
what's going on with the website.
Yeah. I didn't know the contacts were down.
I
I
thought it
used
was
it.
any updated stuff.
There wasn't, no, we got to see this stuff.
And also, too, I think, and I don't know if you're part of town back
Put it
before,
on the second one.
you know, we need to do something, and I've spoken to Dale about how people are living, or what are the requirements, and kind of.
That's kind of
things
like
out
having sort of everything to see as part of
there.
it.
People really aren't sure, you know.
Plus, you have to put it in. Put up, put up.
So is there a new, like, I printed this ordinance,
When it's got the new floodplain?
like the ordinance that's on the website is the one that's, that I printed, that I found on voted system, under our ordinances. Is this the most current ordinance we have?
What's the number?
I think it looks old, and I'm sorry, my eyes are really bad, it's small.
930.
098, is that like from, what, right, what's the,
I think this is from 2000. This is either 2001.
so what is the current, what is the,
We've had it.
what is the most current flood ordinance?
Let's leave it at engineering. Start with talk
Sure.
about that first, any update on the maps.
Yep,
And talk about the update we have on the Irene house.
absolutely.
Oh, and I'm sorry, that's one last thing, the FEMA maps. Right now, when you click on it, you have to, it goes, I know we have a link to the advisory maps, but rather than having to click and it goes to FEMA and then you have to try to find Highlands, you can have the map directly that goes straight to Highlands so that people don't have to, that's another thing that could be done fairly
Tell them to
easy.
put it on.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, put it on.
If you can get us that map, then,
All right, well, all right.
because I can't,
Yeah, but you can make a phone call saying this is what's happening, just put it on. You don't have to have a meeting to discuss it, just put it on.
or,
You guys got to stop
we
waiting
can,
2
or
weeks.
HPP
Yeah,
can.
every day, right. Yeah, engineering.
No problem. First, address the ordinance. I know that the original ordinance was 098. I forget what the other call numbers were, but it gets updated. So I think the last revision
2001, right?
is, no, I think it's 710,
Okay.
July 2010, and that's usually on the bottom of the page. I'd have to see, but I believe that's what is updated through. With regards to the ABFEs, FEMA has stated I'm getting working maps within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's going to show the new zones. I'm
I'm
still being told that a lot of the V is coming back to an A. They haven't said much about elevation-wise. So I should be getting those over the next 2 weeks. They will not be public maps. There will not be public hearings on those maps until the maps roll out August, September. But they're also saying they're fast-tracking these maps for the end of the year, hopefully, instead of the 18-month turnaround like we had in
How
09.
active will they be when they hand you out 2 weeks till September, October?
I'm told that they're going to be pretty much what's coming out in in August,
Are
September.
you telling me not to make them?
They said they can't stop us from doing it, but FEMA will not respond to questions regarding these maps because they're not the maps that they're rolling out. Right. So
Are these maps the basis of the public discussion?
we could have discussions, just FEMA won't participate. FEMA won't weigh in on them. They're saying these are maps basically for official use, not for public use right now.
And any potential public discussion will be the fall or next year.
Well, when they roll the maps out August, September, that's when they'll have the public hearings. Right.
And that public hearing process is taking much longer.
They said they're fast tracking these. They plan on doing a public hearing portion, getting a review process in and getting these streamlined, not doing the 18 months like you did in 09. Whether they do or not, that remains to be seen. No offense, but if they do or not, that just remains to be seen.
FEMA is huge, you can't offend me, there's so many different.
It's all good. It's all good.
Don't shoot them at me.
Right.
Hang on one second, go ahead.
I'm sorry, how does that affect homeowners trying to rebuild along water?
Well, right now, if you came to me today, you'd be billed to the ABFEs, the advisory maps that are out today. When these working maps come out, they still won't be the official map. That's for officials to review. When the maps roll out in September, I'm not exactly sure what the time frame will be to get those maps in place where we go from the ABFE standard over to these new map standards. All right, that remains to be seen. The maps have to be adopted. I don't know if the state's going to take a lead and fast track this with FEMA.
So do they recommend we wait to rebuild until August or September?
That would be up to you. If you want to go now, I'm going to most likely hold you to a V standard. Right. Well, listen. Hear me out, and you'll see why it's up to you. I can't tell you how to spend your money. If you want to go up now, it's a double-edged sword. If you want to go up now, you're going to go up to most likely a V-zone standard, like most of the downtown. If the maps revert back to an A, it's a much less costly lift for you. It depends if you want to wait through a hurricane season or not. That's what I'm trying to get at. I can't make that decision for you.
And currently, the map tells you how many feet and what is the standard.
Yeah, currently the map is, most of everybody's in a V14. We do have a sliver of V16 down by North Street. We have a coastal A12 back by Locust Street, but most of everybody downtown is in a V14.
Now, 2 weeks ago, we decided to wait till this Wednesday coming, and we can
Yes,
on the potential borough ordinance.
right,
That sets height and building specs.
Correct.
How does that differ from the current map and possible new one?
well, basically, our ordinance will reflect the current BFE or ABFE, whatever,
As far as height.
right, exactly, as far as height goes. Our map, or our ordinance will be based on that height. Now, obviously, everybody lifting up, we're gonna exceed the zoning ordinances, for height restrictions, so that's gonna be based on the BFE or ABFE, whatever's relevant at that time. But as those maps change, our ordinance changes with it, because the ordinance always reflects that current standard.
Because the borough can't supersede the federal ordinance.
Exactly. Now, the state still requires for the floors to be a foot over the BFEs. Our ordinance reflects that. I mean, besides that, there's really not much to report on with the maps until these maps roll out and we know exactly where they're heading. Once we know where they're heading, then we can make a determination as a unit on if we want to challenge the current maps, how to, what we want to do. Right now, these maps that are out now, they're advisory. They weren't based on any rhyme or reason. They wanted to give people a standard. Absolutely, they wanted to give people a standard to build to, conservative, get those that can build, that have the resources to build, get them up out of the way, and move on.
One question though, like Mr. Frazee just spoke to, the way the ordinance is written, it will adapt automatically.
Yes.
Because it cites the height, not the number.
Right. It doesn't reflect the number. It reflects whatever that current. Right. If this one comes back at 12, and then a couple years from now it goes to 13, it'll reflect the 13. It just reflects. Right. It reflects the standard, not a particular number.
Because that would give people some guidance there.
Exactly. Now the other side of this too is what I need to stress to people again. Several things. One, the advisory maps do not affect insurance rates. They will not. They can't. They, being your insurance companies, cannot raise the rates based on these maps. Once the maps that roll out later this year get adopted, they can raise their rates based on that if they choose to, but not on the advisories. These have zero impact on your flood insurance rates. Okay? What I need to get people, stress people to do as well is if you haven't gotten on my grants list yet, please shoot me an email, request to get on the grants list with your name and address so I can get you on the list for consideration. That's very important. Without anybody be on that list, and I've got a couple businesses that approached me too already. I got 5 of them already that have come in to talk to me about it. Make sure, if you want to be on that list, get on that list. It's not binding, it just gets you in for consideration, so I at least have a running total on the list to get to FEMA. All right, that's all that does.
The last time we had a long discussion at the meeting, I believe it was it was the second meeting, that we would adversely affect people's insurance adopting that ordinance. That probably isn't true.
That's not true.
The ordinance changes.
The ordinance changes, right. Exactly. By adopting those ABFE maps, all you're doing is you're allowing people to get access to their ICC money. The state's saying that if those maps aren't adopted, that people are going to have issues getting their ICC money. But that does not have any impact on your flood insurance rates whatsoever. All right. So that's all right. So the other part of this too is a lot of people got substantial damage letters, pretty much the entire downtown. If you did, you have not appealed yet, and you want to, please get the word out. We need to get the word out again too. Maybe even do another mailing. But we need to get people to understand that if they don't appeal these letters, that the borough is going to accept that as you agree that you're substantially damaged, and you will be required to bring your property into compliance, whether it's a business that's floodproofing, whether it's a resident to lift, if it's a multifamily or condominium, that'll be a floodproofing situation. That will be required. We will need to do it. We'll have to do that to comply with the NFIP, with the community rating system, and it'll all have an impact one way or the other on the entire town. It won't just be on that particular property. So please, tell your neighbors whatever. If they haven't appealed and they want to, please get to me. If they haven't gotten the grants list and they want to, that's important too to get to me. Leading into grants, the hazard mitigation grant for FEMA, I'm hearing that they are inundated right now. Again, no offense, but that's kind of slowed down to a crawl for the Sandy grants. All right. Again, I haven't heard anything back officially, but that's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. The community development grant that the governor talked about last week, that seems to be rolling out rather quickly, but that's going to be much more strict than the hazard mitigation grant. Like I was saying earlier, what I'm seeing is up to $150,000 per household potentially for house lifting. Potentially, the state's looking at another possible $10,000 per household to assist with repairs, to assist with the increase in flood insurance. They're looking at that. That's nothing that's been solidified yet. Primary residency income limits, asset limits. You know, you might make 30,000 a year, but you got 500,000 in the bank. You're not going to qualify. And as Mr. Redmond alluded to earlier, they are going to be looking at assets, income, everything to see what you qualify for, if any. So it's going to be much more strict. It'll be a dual application process. The borough will have to submit an application, but you will have to get an application completed as well. So
Yeah,
this,
the way how are we gonna roll that out? Now, the Irene house, she had some movement on the last 10 days.
yes,
We had a lot of folks that said they wanted to be involved, and they had to front money, correct?
yes.
Is that gonna be the same with this?
It's tough to say, Frank. I don't know how they're going
What we did
to.
with Irene?
Right. Well, yeah. Basically, with Irene is a reimbursement grant.
Remember we talked about the borough?
Yeah, the borough having to do the 1.1 or whatever. I'm not sure how they're going to do Sandy. I mean, it's going to be a much larger nut than 1.1
People
million.
can't, they're applying for money to go buy a refrigerator, they're not gonna
Exactly.
put 15 grand out the window.
Even the ICC money, a lot of the insurance companies are either giving you half up front and the rest in the back, or some are giving all in the back and not giving anything up front.
Correct.
Which that makes it even more difficult. So how that's going to roll out remains to be seen. But like I said, back to the CD grant, that's going to be a dual application process. The way it looks like it's starting to shape up, it'll be an application from the individual resident, and then the borough's got to submit something as well to go along with that.
Who's
So
gonna administer that? No offense, you're over mine. That's back with you. You're in the
Appreciate
district,
that.
right?
No offense to me.
Is the grant supply money for, allocate money for an administrator? Have we got any of that yet?
Frank, I'd have to see how that's going to take. I'm hoping it does.
I'm sorry.
No, the CD grant.
Community block grant.
Yeah,
Right.
block grant.
I'd have to see if that does. I mean, it would make sense because it's going to be manpower necessary to do
Would
this.
that be a project manager, an engineer?
It would be a project. You wouldn't need an engineer for that. You just need a project manager. I'm thinking.
That's right.
What brings up to your attention, so New Jersey Futures has a grant program that they're hiring community recovery managers. And they've already hired one, they're looking to hire 3 more. They're gonna grant 2 more. So, New Jersey Futures, might want to contact them. I think they'll pay up to 3 years.
Okay. We'll probably need every bit of it.
It's-
Didn't the governor talk about all this money last week?
That's the money.
That's the money I'm talking about.
We have the money, but everything else to follow.
Right, exactly.
The process.
So-
Right. The money's been put aside in the bank account, but now they have to decide how they have to roll this out to procurement, spend it, and everything else.
Federal level to act on. That's-
Right.
We're also 90 days ahead right now.
Right. It's HUD money out of the feds. They roll that into the state through community development, and the state rolls out how that gets done.
And I believe you can register to be on their list of those forms coming out from the governor.
Yes, you can.
There's a website you can go
It's
on.
on the website.
I saw it on the advertisement.
We
Yes.
should probably put that on our website too, right? Need direction?
No,
Thank you very much.
no, I actually,
You made a note of that?
I'll give you an
Question
update
about
when
the
you know.
grant money is the dollars that you income and what you have financially. So if you're over that amount of money, you're not gonna get anything in that grant,
Typically, like
Right.
everything else,
Nothing.
the people
Zero.
working hard or couples working hard, probably.
okay? You're not
Right.
gonna get anything.
Normally, those classified as lower moderate income, that's what this would be geared towards.
Right.
As a normal CD grant.
And you have a little money in the bank, forget it.
I got a better one.
Yeah.
What if you and your spouse?
What?
What if you and your spouse will be paying more?
I know, it's like, what's the point? Because you're playing the game, right? You get-
Right.
Shelter.
And it's like more a shortfall. And I know for the businesses, you can't even apply unless you return down like
The
SBA.
reality is, we.
Oh, it's tough. There's no doubt. It's a restrictive program.
We don't have everything right now. I agree with you, but the things we have to do is count.
Like, just in the trailer forever.
And then, the problem I have, I think the council should address this, but maybe the governor, is that if we have 55% of the people downtown or houses are rentals, they're not eligible because they're rentals.
Right.
Then if you're middle class, you're not eligible. So who the hell's getting the money?
That's right.
Nobody.
I hate to say it, but a lot of people that are in the system are, that's just reality. They're not-
You know, I mean, people are renting. They get some money from FEMA, but they're not going to fix the house with the money. So
I get no money for the rentals, and the rentals don't bring
business is
me
like
any
that.
income.
I think it's gonna be a good opportunity for
Because of the rentals don't come.
What?
I think it's going to be, in the end, a good opportunity for Highlands. I think I've already
What better?
have spoken to, new potential homeowners, a couple of people that recently bought a home, people that are looking at buying homes. I think those people, like you said, the absentee landlord, maybe it will be an opportunity that they're gonna sell the home and then we
If they
get,
haven't walked away from it.
right.
If middle-class people are walking away because they're in that exact position.
I don't disagree. They might have been upside down before the storm. Making money.
I know people that were close to retirement, and he said, I'm just not taking on $50,000, $60,000 in debt again.
Or lifting
And left.
They took whatever they could.
The only potential upside, or maybe one of the few that you could see, is those that can qualify this and they use it, they take advantage of it. Then when the other grants, if there's something else besides hazard mitigation or any other pot of money that comes out, these people would already be, say, taken care of, and whatever money's out there, the pot of money we get could maybe be used for, say, 600 houses instead of 700 houses or whatever, and that might help people out that way. I mean, but that, right now, that's one of the few bright spots I'm seeing on this
Talk
side.
about the Irene, Mr. Hill,
Yeah, Mr. Hill could definitely take the lead on it. He and I had spoken, and then I guess he got a call from Senator Carrillo's office.
Yeah, I got an inquiry from Senator Carrillo's office, and then I got a follow-up letter from Jillian Stokely from FEMA. The approval letter for the grant has been signed by FEMA. The state currently has the local and state agreements which will require the borough's signature. A trooper from the state OEM should be dropping off the agreement sometime early this week for signature. Today is Wednesday.
Did you go to the other building? You got lost?
I'm just saying, that's the email I got. I'm going to follow up, but they're going to be delivered. They're going to be hand delivered by a trooper to our office for
At this
signature.
point, it's taking 18 months and we can raise 11 houses.
Yeah.
They know where believe me, they know where we're located.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you want to talk? I know we all got a letter about short drive phase 2.
Yeah, sure. I could certainly talk about that. Recently, the state, on a good side, the state DOT announced that we were successful in receiving a grant to resurface Shore Drive from Waterwich down to the end, down to Locust. We got $200,000 towards that. So that's something that we could, another road where we could address and put to bed. It definitely needs resurfacing. We get a lot of traffic down that way. It's one of the most heavily traveled roads in town. So that'll be a good thing.
Okay, the headliner of the show, the financial guy, Steve. Give us an idea where we stand borough-wise.
Well, we have applied for the Community Disaster Loan Program, and
Please speak up, Steve.
we've applied for the Community Disaster Loan Program through FEMA. It's basically a three-pronged process. We've passed the first test, and we've preliminarily been qualified for the maximum amount of the loan, which is $2,363,000. The purpose of this loan is to stabilize the budget and continue to provide the necessary services to the residents. The end game that we would all like to see, and that's the state, myself included, is that we make this money last through a 3-year period, so that we can kind of stabilize ourselves for 3 years. And then go forward. Hopefully, there's increased ratables coming back in. Our collection rate will come back up. Our whole financial picture will be stabilized. I'm hoping that on Friday, I was going to hope to go down there and meet with the division, because I have some questions overall on the budget itself and some of the processes that we're going to have to go through in some of our capital projects in order to get them approved by the state. In the meantime, we've got over $4 million of special emergency money appropriated. That's borough money, that's tax money, of which we're hoping 75% of that's going to come back from FEMA. We're in various states of applications in for FEMA. We have gotten some money already. In December of 2012, we got an initial payment. We have recently put in to firm up what was an estimate into an actual and get our entire 75% of that. So we're waiting on that. We are on hold at the moment as far as the budget goes I think we really just need to finalize what extra we need to put in potential services that we think is going to be necessary to help expedite the rebuilding of the town and move things along. What isn't addressed here, which one of the things that I was going to address with them, if I can meet with them on Friday, is borough facilities. And, you know, I think it's very realistic to believe that we are going to have to fund those projects at least temporarily to get them off the ground. Because, you know, it takes a while to get FEMA money. And we also are in the process of going through with our insurance company to see what's out there, and we have a commitment for $250,000 on Borough Hall, which we've received $250,000 of that so far. From right now, it's too early. We're right in the middle of a tax quarter. At the end of the quarter, we'll get updated financial numbers both on the taxes and on the sewer. We were trending off on the sewer. We were down on the first quarter on taxes by about 11%. So this money, which 1/3 of it would be $787,000, really is going to be in there to A, pump up the shortfall in taxes, and B, to help fund any additional services that we're going to provide in the budget. And the other thing that I need to talk to them about, as you know, when we do a capital ordinance, when we do major rebuilding or repairs here, we're required to put up 5% of our own money as a down payment. We're going to be going before the local finance board on several projects for that waiver of that down payment, because that could be really burdensome in the budget. So that's one of the things I need to discuss with them.
You think you're going to talk to them Friday?
I'm hoping, I was planning on driving down there. I have to do something else down there on Friday, and I'm hoping I can get them for at least a half hour. One of the things we'll bring up, which came up today, was these large flood insurance premiums and how to deal with something like that because that's within the budget, within the cap.
And that's just the beginning.
Right. And really, for municipalities that were really affected by the storm, cap issues 4 years down the road are going to be huge. If we can make this loan money last for the 3 years, that should keep us within cap. The other thing about the loan money is, if we do show continuing losses, and this is not a good thing, if we do show continuing losses, we won't have to repay the loan. And the loan won't amortize for 5 years. And when they've asked me to redo one page in the application that they're bringing to the state on Friday, they asked me if we wanted to draw down any money immediately. And my first response was, well, I really don't know what I need for the budget, but rethinking it, and then Tim and I talked it over, I think we're going to draw a third, just to get the process going and have that money in the bank.
So we have it for the budget.
Yeah, well, they'll allow it. I'm pretty sure, with the commitment, when they get the papers delivered to them on Friday, that's going to be enough to at least anticipate it. Now, we have to go through, that's the second phase. It goes to the state. I think that's just, they just want to see it, copy it, put it in their file. But then it goes on to FEMA for formal approval. Right now, it's FEMA's consultants that I've worked with for like the last 3 or 4 weeks on this. We massaged it enough to get to where we needed to be. But so right now, we are pending bond counsel preparing a notice of sale. We're going to sell another $2 million of short-term debt. And we are waiting on what I consider one of our bigger problems, to me maybe the biggest, is the demolition program that we're going to have to get into. A, the amount of money that we're actually going to need. We know the consultant cost, but we don't know the hard cost. And also how we're going to fund it. And right, the last time I talked to our bond counsel, we were looking to fund it with enough wording about FEMA grants to not have to go to the local finance board for a waiver, to have an automatic down payment waiver in that ordinance. And I'm waiting to hear back from him hopefully tomorrow on how he's making out, but from our end, we need a number.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to, whatever an average house demolition and the tipping to get rid of everything is gonna cost times some number, and that's what we put a little contingency in and we go with it, at least to get it started. So I got a lot of stuff in the hopper, but the one thing I would like to get going and talk to them Friday and is to get the budget introduced. To get us some idea.
So once you talk to them Friday, we have a better idea?
Yeah, but I also, if anybody has, I know we've talked about a lot of things. We talked about code enforcement, we talked about UCC, we've talked about legal, we talked about the tax assessor's office, about additional funding in those offices. So those, I kind of have an idea. I think I can put some numbers together for something to go in there. But if people have other ideas, something we may not have talked about,
Send me some email.
yeah, send me something on that so we can put some money in there. But we have $1.4 million left in the special emergency money. So, hopefully we can go through that slowly. So, we're going to need whatever we need, we can take care of. But that's what we have left there. But right now, we're pretty much. Once we get their okay to throw this line item in the budget, I think we can move forward and at least have an introduced budget with a stabilized tax rate. Now, the biggest thing, that when I say stabilized tax rate, from my side of that, I'm looking at something, keeping the amount to be raised by taxation to a stable level compared to the last full year that we had, which was a fiscal year. But what that doesn't include at this point is where the ratables settle, okay? Because the ratables affect the rate, all right? And we can tell you we're coming in with no tax increase, and you'll get your tax bill, and you'll say, wait a minute, you said no tax increase, it's because the ratables dropped, and you may be picking up more of the share of the cost than you were previously. Yeah.
But the reality is, what we can do is come in at a zero, and it's the best we can do.
Yeah.
Because other stuff.
And I don't know if that's the game plan at the state here. I think they want you to stabilize. I'm not sure they want you to stabilize at a zero. I think they may say have a little bit of movement. Now, they did tell me because we transitioned this year, we'll get a 3% cap instead of a 2% cap, and we will be allowed to bank the levy cap. So that's a good thing. I will be preparing an ordinance that hasn't gone through in the last several years, but I think we better push it through this time, and that's the appropriation.
Ability to go higher.
Yes, and to bank if we're not at the cap. I think we need now to have as much leeway going forward, especially when this CDL runs out.
Right.
And one of the questions that I have is the community development block grant money is also available to the municipalities, but not to us at this point because we're eligible for the max on this grant. But my question will be to them is, okay, maybe not this year, but what happens if we have to use more than we anticipated, and then next year's the problem, or the third year's the problem? So, they may not be able to answer all these questions either, but, there's just things like, I want to put out there and see what they have to say. So I'm hoping I
So
can.
we can only apply for the one.
Well, since we're eligible for the max, we could not apply unless we were forced to use every penny of that this year. We're not going to be. I don't see that.
So we're going to be taking.
Yeah, let me just say this. When we went from a fiscal year budget, which ended on June 30th, the state had asked us to go back to a calendar year, starting on January 1st. And we had to do a 6-month transition budget. And we also had to do a pro forma, in the application, the pro forma 2013 and 14 budget. So in crafting the 6-month budget, we were able to maintain our surplus that we had closed with in the last fiscal year, plus add a couple $100,000 to it.
Okay.
So we were well positioned to make this change before the storm in very good financial shape. And then the storm came and changed everything. But we still have. Now we're sitting on $800,000 in surplus, when before we were utilizing $600,000. So we have some leeway, and I can't see the increases that we've talked about at the table being more than that 200,000. So now it really, hopefully, is just going to come down to the potential shortfall in the tax collection rate that we might be facing, and in the sewer collection too, which I fear could be a bigger problem.
Okay. It could be, but probably less dollar amount.
Oh yeah, it's less dollar amount, but it has the same impact. Yeah, so that's where we stand at the moment, and hopefully, after Friday, we'll be able to move. And then if the council has any ideas, and I think also based on the situation that we're in and the way that affects spending in the first 4 months of the year, we can probably do some reallocations of some money to move it to places, take it from one place, move it to a place where we really need it. So I think that's in the mix too.
So there's no lot more comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Just wanted to see this okay? Okay. Anybody in the audience have any questions? CFO? We're still in the public portion.
Yes, I'm bringing to you 50 Valley Street. The money that's going to be allocated for Shore Drive, don't you have to, if somebody wants to cut into that road, does it stop anybody from cutting into the road to add new services for several years?
Mayor, I could take this. There would be a moratorium on it for 7 years, unless it's an emergency 1, or 2, they would need approval from this table to be able to do that. If not, you wouldn't be able to cut into that road.
Right, because doesn't it make sense, or looking into the future with the vacant land down at the end of Locust, that within the next 7 years, somebody's going to want, whether it's Horace and Ed, to the marina, cut into that road to get sewer in there, or not?
Well, at that point, you could have an agreement with whatever application comes through that they have to repave a portion of the road.
Right. That will be part of our agreement.
Yeah, but then it's patched, right? Is it in that bad?
You'd have one seat, if you're going from the end back through. And you could infrared repair that too. Where you meld everything back together. I mean, there's ways you can handle it.
Mr. Mayor, on Shore Drive, are they going to fix the part by the bank where the line comes down from Water Witch area, runs underneath the road, comes through Jones's Creek? That always caves in there. Are you going to fix that now before we fix the road? Or?
Well, that's something we're going to have to look at. Obviously, what we try to do, Mr. Mandrod, is we look at all the sewers. Now, the sanitary was done under the Basin 8 project several years ago, so sanitary should be fine. But you still want to look at the storm sewers. And you're right. You don't want to pave a road and wind up having to dig it up to repair, any kind of an infrastructure underneath. So we'll definitely look at that.
That's been caving in for the last couple of years. But, on Shore Drive, we did Shore Drive years ago in the 60s. We never picked up the railroad track.
Thanks.
When you dig down, you
Appreciate that.
Do you have any other questions? You're first on public.
on the public portion, I just want, not a Dale, but when I want to bring some information to the council.
Okay.
I got a call yesterday from my insurance agent, and he told me, I've got a policy coming up in July and one in August, and last one in November, and he told me, forget it. He said, the one in July and August, they're canceled.
It's a house insurance,
House insurance.
not flood insurance.
Not flood insurance, the house insurance. And he said, so far he went through 5 companies, nobody will pick it up. And I talked to 3 or 4 people, and they're up here in the hill. And they got canceled. Because the insurance companies don't want to handle it. So we're going to have a major problem here in the Highlands on picking up the homeowners policy. Because they don't want to be involved. Just like the new policy we had for the VFW. Stamped right across the front of it, 1/2-inch letter. No flood, no wind, no storm, no hail.
No coverage.
Coverage fire and liability. So next time we get a flood, we'll burn it down.
Yeah.
He was gonna have
That's
to
the
help
only
with
thing.
that
They
insurance
won't
too.
cover for anything. And he told me, my insurance agent told me, they're gonna up the, if I get a policy, it's gonna be up on the,
Hot side.
I'd say, it's gonna be high, it's gonna be high. Last policy I got canceled, my insurance doubled.
That was a homeowner or
Homeowner. So this is gonna be a problem coming up in the next.
We have a lot of
couple
bullet point potential long-term problems, and that's a serious issue. I'm not even
months.
like.
Maybe we can work something out with the state to try to
Well,
get
we started talking about this briefly with one of the people in banking and insurance,
Yeah,
but there's no cliff that answers that. We know it's a serious concern,
it's
especially
gonna be a
2
real
3 years
problem.
from now. No question.
Nobody wants insurance.
Thank you, sir. Carolyn?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's my yearly request.
Name and address,
As it
please.
starts getting warmer.
Name and address,
12
please.
Miller Street. Old people start coming down to the beach, and they deposit all of their trash all over the beach, which used to be easier when my neighbors lived next to me, but since nobody does now, so it's not picking up the beach. So if you could just put the garbage can, garbage cans,
Or two.
back on the beach would be great. Second thing is Dale.
We got a sip.
We're talking about your grant list. As you know, I'm not
Carolyn,
really-
excuse me.
Carolyn, you gotta speak up, I'm sorry.
Can't hear you at all.
Okay.
You're recording, you gotta speak up.
About the grant list, do you have to wait before you vote in order to be eligible for all of these grants? Or do you need to,
For the hazard mitigation grant, you do have to wait.
no, I'm talking about the new one.
Community development, I don't know, I'm assuming you do.
Typically in the past, you had.
Right, I'm assuming you do, but they haven't been definitive with that. Which is another, it just throws another wrench in the works, time-wise. You know, do you want to wait for this to come in?
Right, and as you know, I'm not gonna wait. for it.
Exactly, yeah, I know. I know.
The lifters are chomping at the bit, they're waiting for, permits to get filed.
Right.
That kind of good stuff, which is fine, great, we're gonna let this money out. But is there anything going on that would possibly mitigate expenses for people like ourselves and a couple of our other neighbors that are getting a personal loan or dipping into their savings and getting this done because I can't do another 3 feet of water in my house?
Right.
And I don't want to risk it.
No, and I don't blame you.
Any recourse for people like us to ever go back to get any sort of reimbursement?
There's nothing I've seen yet, but I'm not gonna, never is a strong word. So I don't want to say that there's never going to be anything.
But there's nothing.
There's nothing in place as we sit here on May 8th. There's nothing in place that I'm aware of. That'll as a mechanism for that.
Down the pipe.
Thank you.
Pete Johnson, Pete, you want to speak again?
I
Carla?
gotta go see my therapist.
I just want to, I was going to talk about the flood mitigation, but since I have the next opportunity before Chris gets me in big trouble with Ken, I want to clarify, and I did text Ken, the website has not been down at all. What's been down is the database, which the database is where the municipal contacts are, and that's not funded by the borough. But that being said, it doesn't matter if the resident trying to get right the contact. So what I'm suggesting is, if you would permit, make a static contact page, which can easily be done just as part of your regular website, so that it's not database driven. So this way, I'm sorry, you don't pay for the database.
Okay, so why is it down?
It's down, it happened after Hurricane Irene, it's something to do with our server and the serial, he said,
Exactly what it says.
he said it should be any day, but regardless, somebody who's not an engineer, like, and I know you guys, like, when I'm always constantly looking to see how things make sense online, just from a user-friendly perspective, I suggest just having him put a static contact page that doesn't change, and then you did that nice trifold. That should be available here and also online, so that, yes, so that this way, if the database goes down, like we use the database more like the businesses.
So put the trifold on there.
Yeah, and a static contact page, so this way, if God forbid anything ever happens, the page is always there. So if that's okay,
Sure.
we do that, and then this way.
If there's ever a question like that, just call them or
Right,
email. or
well,
something.
I didn't even know, because I use the site all the time, I didn't realize the contacts were down. Why? Because I just know how to
Don't
bother
think
you
it's
guys
fine.
on a daily basis, I don't have to look up the phone number.
Okay.
So, but for the person who doesn't, it would be easier just to have the static page.
Behind Elliot, the live info?
We're gonna, I'm sorry. We're gonna play back, we have a recording.
All right, I'm doing it.
Your complaint about the
Yeah.
website, too many clicks.
You're gonna get- yes.
We're gonna play it back.
But that's a different issue. That's a different
Exactly right.
issue. We have to streamline where the information is, and I'd be happy to help do that. I offered Dale to help. I'd be no, but the direction has to come from the
The
borough.
problem is all five of us think something very important, it all should be on the homepage.
Well, I don't think any of it's.
So it's just a matter of maybe just like that one brochure would be great if you could get that updated, or, you know. I just think it's critical to have the current
All right.
hurricane
Make it happen,
related.
Carla.
You know.
Thank you. Mary Ellen, 12 Waterway?
Yeah, it's not very, my parents.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, just one.
I'm sorry, they're on the sort of Ustream.
It's okay.
I just have a couple questions. They couldn't be here for health reasons, they're displaced.
Okay.
Zoning, the ABF forms we're talking about, again, I'm having trouble navigating the websites and the resources and stuff. As far as their elevation, because they're to rebuild and everything else, and repair, where would I find that one with the additional ABE, ABF form?
To show what the current standard is.
Where they need to be, yeah.
If you go on the Coastal 2 Region website, it's Coastal, the number 2 region. I think that's the order it's in. I don't have it in front of me. But if you Google that, it's going to come up. You can go on there and you can find what your ABFE is by your address.
Okay, and the other thing too is if they decide, if for some reason they decide to sell without lifting it to that level, first of all, can they repair it without lifting to that level, would they get permits?
Right now they can.
Right now they can.
Until about roughly when, I'm not gonna hold you to it.
About the end of 2016.
Okay, good. So, and then if they do repair without lifting, will they have a problem with sale? I don't mean a personal problem if people look into it, but as far as the.
Financial? You would, common sense would tell you anyone who's going to buy would do the due diligence and know you have to lift the house. And we deduct whatever they think their cost is from what they want to pay.
I have two more quick questions.
Sure.
I apologize. For the gentleman that's here from FEMA, I know that he's here for the town and public buildings. Is it also for individual homeowners, a resource here in town? or-
This particular division of FEMA is going to be like an over scope of rebuilding the town and how to get dollars and cents and, whatever we ask them to use in that capacity.
So there is a possibility that you may be opening up some area for private home. I know a lot of this is for town, rebuilding other buildings and businesses.
Well, the one, we have the one right now on Route 36.
Yeah, I think it might have closed.
Okay.
Is it four? Okay.
No.
It's still up, I think.
But again, the May.
Not the extended hours, but it's still open.
Yeah.
You need to.
It's open Saturday.
The other last thing I have to say, just a brief thing, is I'm just wondering about the police presence in town. I know my parents' house has had some stuff taken from the property, so I just don't know if they're addressing looting, still damages or anything like that.
There hasn't been any reported in a while. If you had something, please let us know.
Okay.
Because then I'm sure the chief will readdress it recently.
Okay, so-
We had a few instances, first 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, we've had some stuff taken in the last month or two that I think my parents have reported, but we didn't.
Okay. And I'm sure the chief will readdress it recently.
Just to clarify the website for you, it's region2coastal.com. So it's region number 2 coastal.com. That's where you can find that.
Well, Maureen Welch? Is Maureen Welch here?
I'm on the line.
50,000?
1,000 residents are fine with it.
Yeah, the question I have is if your house is not substantially damaged, and if you own it, will you be on the list to get grants to raise it? Does that make any difference in that qualifying to have a grant?
I think it's part of the factor as well as income and everything else. You're talking about if you own it outright or have a mortgage?
Yeah.
Or you're a renter?
If it's not substantially damaged.
Not substantially damaged.
Correct.
And you're trying to move to avoid further damage.
Right.
Correct? How do they typically roll out there? Only substantially damaged?
Typically, they weigh heavily or heavier on substantially damaged properties, right? But that's not saying that that's a definitive, they're going to definitively work that way now. Knowing that, everybody's going to be beneficial to get every house out of the zone.
I will tell you this one. We had a gentleman, I sat through the Irene hearings, and one of the homeowners didn't have substantial damage, and wasn't quite sure why FEMA even had him on the list. And then they told him because you have cumulative effect of damage. And they were on the list, they didn't fight it because they wanted to lift anyway. And the nice thing about this program, as far as Irene goes, I'm sure it'll mirror this somewhat with Sandy, you got to go really far into it, even though you stood and everything else without committing and having signed documentation and you couldn't turn back. Like you went way far into it, estimates, contractors, everything else, and you knew how much you had to spend out of pocket, if any.
Right, to be not substantially damaged?
The one guy I'm sure of on Irene is not suspension damage. Now, I don't know if it's gonna be exactly the same as Sandy.
I mean, like in this case, I had to take photographs.
Yeah.
Now, you were not suspension damage?
No.
Right, he appealed the letter, Frank, he was successful, I rescinded the letter, based on his request.
One.
You know, the house had never flooded before.
And this time you had a lot.
I mean, the advice that I'm giving out, if people ask me your exact question is, leave the substantially damaged letter in place until you're sure that you don't want to read it.
Well, he's talking about the side.
Yeah, it's too late, plus one has nothing to do with the other. That's horrible information.
Less than 2 feet, it wouldn't be substantially damaged.
Regardless of foundation.
No, and it was an economic thing. Yeah, what we're trying to get out of it is, and I guess the next question is, and Dale answered this, was that if you own the house, do you have to raise it? Can the town make you raise it? And he's saying yes.
That's an interesting question.
You know, Dale says yes, but I'd like to see if there's ordinances either borough. Can you make the homeowner raise it?
We have been asking, I can tell you,
Right.
sitting at countless meetings with other mayors and stuff like that. We've been asking all our representatives
Tell
of
them
the
no,
change
no,
both sides of the
again.
fence. You're telling us to hold everybody to this criteria. At some point, you're gonna give us deadline. What are you gonna do when you have 300 homes, like say in Middletown? That was exactly what God did. What are you gonna do in Middletown with 300 people? You know, they're never gonna flood that property where they are. Like, you said, they're not going to for. They don't wanna raise what are you gonna do? What are you gonna make the town do? Right. What are you gonna make the town do? As far as going to litigation, are you gonna go on throwing a lot of houses? We're not gonna start absorbing money for suing people that don't wanna live in their house.
It's
So,
I have no
we have
problem
not
with
been told they're gonna make us do that now, but if you're not gonna, in my opinion, if you're not gonna make something, why give a deadline? Right?
And-
You have to look at it all.
Well, the problem of it is, right, well, the problem of it is too, is if you've got a house that's deemed substantially damaged and us as a borough don't require them to lift, right, that absolutely adversely affects us in the NFIP,
Right.
in the community rating system, so it affects everybody else in town by not doing what's right for that one property.
But however, if you had one person and everybody else decided to lift, they would probably try to affect you to lift by financial things, such as insurance would go up, you wouldn't be covered if you got to bid, things like that.
Right, but you can't, I mean,
Do I think we're gonna vote on an ordinance that's gonna make you lift your house? No.
that's the question, is can you
Me personally, I wouldn't.
legally tell a homeowner?
I don't.
I don't think you can.
Hey, you get to talk now. I don't know, somebody wait for something. Yeah, I don't think you can.
Right.
Yeah.
You need a mechanism in place to,
I think it kicks in if you have to do something to your house.
Will you be done with this?
You, like a substantial addition,
Or
a fire. You- At the point that
we might have it over your head at some point.
Our line, right?
Yeah.
That never happened.
You're shaking your head, right?
That never happened.
No, but that's already in place, like, people, now, if you go over more than
Maureen,
50%, you have to raise
Right.
it.
What do you-
I think
I'm
what,
saying that wouldn't apply in our case. The question is.
Well, you don't know if you're not gonna have a fire, you don't know if you're gonna sell and somebody else needs to rebuild. That obligation stays with that property.
Right, but it doesn't.
it's not gonna be having police coming to your door saying you're
I'm not
arrested.
asking if the police are coming, I'm asking, I'm waiting for the lawyer to respond.
You said no.
Does the
I said
council
no.
have a
You said no.
legal right to?
I said I don't believe
Okay, so then people shouldn't, and I don't know, Dale, if you want to refute that, because that's.
I'm not gonna refute that, because I'll tell you what, the day I refute that and our rating goes through the floor, I know a bunch of people are gonna say, you said I didn't have to do that, so I'm not refuting that statement.
Right.
There's no way.
Okay.
I'm Barbara Jones, 247 Bay Avenue. I have one question, because of people in the town that own rental properties, we're not a business, but SBA wants to think of us as a business. It's not the primary residence, so I can't get into these grant monies. Is there some program that maybe the town, we could work together, or can we form our own nonprofit or do something? Because there's so many people who live here that rent houses.
You can do anything you want.
But I know what I'm saying to you is, should
Technically, you are. Technically, you
Yes,
are.
but then I can't join the Highlands Business Partnership and get grants as a business, because I'm not that kind of business. So how
The
do we?
state designates anything over
Yeah.
4 units as class 4C property.
But I have only a house,
Right,
you know,
that's-
a house. And I'm sure there's lots of people here, and because I own a house now, I'm not gonna qualify for these grants, because I own property. You know, so it's really, there's gotta be some way that the town should look at the fact that we're bringing in money, we're bringing in people that pay taxes, we're bringing in population, can't you look at us and at least give us some consideration?
I mean, we're not looking at it. We're working
Well, we're
90
kind of
days trying to
getting
get this
pushed
done for
away, we want
everybody.
a rental.
But the reality is your house made whole right now?
No,
Your own personal house?
No.
Well, I'm trying to get yours, mine, Kevin's, and everybody else here who doesn't have their own personal house. That's out here business investment. Not that we're saying to
but I
get that.
can't get my house fixed because I own an investment in town.
No,
I
me neither.
invested
Okay,
in this
I'll talk.
town, and I'm now getting penalized for that because I won't qualify for the grant money.
That's just like anyone that owns a home that makes a decent living, they
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to pay for it either. So.
Well, I'm just saying that it would be nice if somebody thought of
Nobody's giving me anything.
residents that own, that are not a business, but residents that own rental properties, there could be some
It is a
consideration.
business, you're making an income from it.
I'm not now, I'm losing
But
money.
you were.
Yes.
If it got fixed or repaired,
Do
are
I
you gonna rent them
qualify?
also? And then you're gonna,
But I
then you
don't
have to pay
qualify
the
for
money
a
back.
business grant, there's no grant that I can get.
It's no grant I can get either, and I can't get in my own house.
Well, I can't either for mine.
Well, on the CDBG,
I
they really
understand,
didn't
but-
clearly define that
Myself,
section
David.
for,
It's just that there's a lot of people in this town that
that's
don't
not
rent the property.
clearly defined.
And
I
it's-
think that's a gray area. For people that own an income, a home as an income producing, it wasn't really clearly defined. That was a very gray area in the CDBG for the business grant.
Okay,
So
I'll look at it.
I'm not sure that's totally ruled out, but the minute we.
But however, we don't even have the grant in place yet,
Right.
right?
Well, the
For
other-
those single family.
Right,
The
I
other
know.
question I have is, did anybody drive down Bay Avenue this morning? When is this gonna be addressed? This is getting ridiculous. The flooding is ridiculous. This was on the table 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Why do I have to be up to my knees to go out of the house?
Same
To
reason
go out of
in
my trailer,
Hoboken,
excuse
same reason in New York, same reason. 2.5 inches of rain within a short period of time.
Any
You're gonna
high
get
time,
all-
you know what happens on Bay Avenue,
High
is this
tide
ever
goes
gonna
on.
get addressed? We're
You get all
fixing
that rain
Shore
coming
Drive.
down from the hills, it all
Is
comes
this
down
on
to
the
lower.
ticket for
You're
anyone?
high tide, it's gonna stay there, it's not gonna go out. A lot of people have to do.
We've applied for it.
Yes, I know.
$400 million grant to start fixing.
Yes, and you started and you went up to the hill and you
We
did.
did do anything, the storm, we did.
Before the storm, you were still doing things towards this goal.
Mr. Frankie believes we are number one on the list, so as soon as they fund that, we can start.
And none of this other funding is gonna go to that.
We can't tell them where to put the money, we make different applications and they fund what they want to fund. Just like when private people come in and they say, I want to get 10,000 to look for Highlands and put a playground in, I'm not telling them to do their private money. That would be arrogant.
It just seems like, and all my neighbors, people are just not coming back. It's just-
What about the USDA funding? There was funding for sewer infrastructure lines. Is that something?
We'll
Get in
talk
here, we'll
about
start putting on the agenda.
But once the plan is written, and we know what we have as far as private single family homes, I anticipate having a lot more meetings like this, if not town halls and regular borough meetings. And we bring the banking and finance guy, and he's been to every one except one, where we can ask them. They probably don't have the answers yet either, because they don't have any writing yet.
Well, I'm gonna keep coming until we get.
Yeah, you can come every day. I have my phone number on the website. Yeah, I come every day. I'm not saying. At some point, you're still gonna get the answers. We don't have nothing. You run a business and we're not gonna pay.
I'm talking not about the business, I'm talking about fixing Bay Avenue.
And if you've been coming, like you said, you know that that's in the works.
It's been in the works for too long.
Many things have been in the works for a long time.
Chris, no.
Thanks for coming out, everybody.
I'll come up to my house.
Welcome all.
Good to see you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Walk away. Be energized when you leave here.
Let me stand up for a minute, stretch.
I do have a quick question for you about one. So you're dancing. That's great, though.